Awesome. Welcome everyone to our product management event tonight. Really excited to have you learn from our experts. We've got a whole stacked panel waiting for you. Let's give it about a minute to let people trickle in. While you are waiting, go ahead and scan that QR code. We will also send the link in the chat. We're doing a free giveaway for our product management bootcamp tonight. This is over $2,600 of value that you can get for free just by being here tonight. And there's not that many of you in here, so it's a great odds. So go ahead and scan that QR code, do the link in the chat to register for that free giveaway for our bootcamp. We'll talk a little bit more about it later so you know what to expect. Okay, let's get started. Thank you so much for being here. Excited to chat about product management recruiting and help you guys prepare Standout candidacy. We will, if you want the recording to this event, make sure you have created a free account on Leland. Again, another QR code. We will also send the link in the chat. We get a ton of questions about recordings through these. So if you want the recording, make sure that you've created a free account on Leland so that we can get it to you. Quick logistics for tonight. Ask questions in the chat. We'll cover a lot of facts and go into details on a lot of different topics tonight. But if you have other questions, go ahead and ask them in the chat and we'll try to get to as many as we absolutely can. There's a lot of you here. Be kind and respectful to the other people, to the other attendees. And then again, if you would like access to the recording, make sure that you've created a free account on Leland. Quick agenda. We'll do some quick welcome and introductions, tell you who we are and why you should be here, introduce you to our stellar panelists tonight. We'll talk a little bit about Leland, then we'll jump straight into the panel and get to the meat of the issues tonight. Quick welcome and introductions. My name is Amelia. I run content at Leland. It's my job to help you get access to the resources that you need to land your job, get into your dream school, whatever else. I'm really passionate about democratizing expertise, giving you access to the information that you need that traditionally has not been available. If there's anything that I can ever do to help you, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to help you. You'll also see Erica and Emma here tonight. Huge shout out to them. We could not put on these events without them. You'll also see them in the chat. Give them a wave or something if you see them. Thank you, Emma and Erica. Okay, enough about us. The real stars of the shows tonight. Coaches, I would love to have you introduce yourselves. Mike, you want to start us off?
Yeah, thanks, Amelia. So I do product here at Leland. I'm actually the only PM at Leland. Before Leland, I was doing the APM path. I had interned at Atlassian and then have recruited with all of the major APM programs. I've been on Leland coaching for about 3 years. I've had about 60 clients during that time. And my clients have gone on to land roles at companies like Google, LinkedIn, Salesforce, Meta, Coinbase, and at this point, I believe all of the major APM programs.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Yiyang, go ahead.
I am Yiyang. Currently, I'm a staff product manager at Stitch Fit. It's an e-commerce retail fashion company. Previously, I was working at a few social companies like TikTok and Pinterest. And then before Pinterest, PayPal and Point. So a lot of companies starting with P. And I've been at Leland for about, I think, a year and a half. And I love the platform so much. I actually refer a lot of my PM friends to be on this platform. And I think it's a really good platform to kind of break into product management and up level your skills. So excited to be here.
Thanks, Yiyang. Zane, finish us off.
Thank you all for joining and spending what is a very expensive evening for the East Coasters with us to talk about the 3 of our favorite jobs. But my name is Zane. I've been a product manager for LinkedIn for a little over 3 years, been with the company 5.5 years, and have done many things in that time. A little bit of ops, a little bit of chief of staff type roles, and then product. Most recently, I've been with Leland as a career coach for 2.5 years as well, and have seen it grow from budding idea on a whiteboard into this incredible community that we get to participate with today. So honored to be with you all.
Thanks, coaches. As you can tell, we have an absolutely stacked panel. We have thousands of coaches on Leland at this point, and you are getting advice from some of the best of the best. Thanks for being here tonight, coaches. Okay, you know us. We would love to start to get to know you. So answer in the chat, where are you working or studying? And then what is your current favorite product? This is a little bit of a teaser of an interview question that you will almost certainly be asked. So you might as well start it off now, and I'm gonna make you sit here in awkward silence until I get at least one answer. So come on, give us some answers. TikTok or ChatGPT? Yiyang, represent TikTok. Spotify, okay. Keep them coming, keep them coming. Canva. That's a good one. I use a lot of Canva. Keep them coming. We love seeing them, and we'll look at them after as well. Okay, so if this is your first with Leland, first event with Leland, just want to tell you a little bit about who you are and what we do, who we are and what we do. We're kind of building your one-stop shop for reaching any of your career goals, getting into a competitive school, whatever your goal is, we're determined to get you the resources that you need to get there. That means one-on-one coaching. You can book time and work one-on-one with amazing experts like we have on this panel. Again, we have thousands of experts that you can choose from and match your background and your goals and your budget and all the things. We also do live cohort-based courses, our boot camps. These are incredibly powerful because you're in a group of people that are going through the same stage with you. So you're going with other people that are recruiting for PM roles, applying to MBA programs, whatever. And we bring our best coaches to teach those. They can be a really budget-friendly, powerful way to get started. And then we host a ton of events just like this. We love helping you get started, and events are a great way to do this. If you're signed up for Leland, you'll get invites to future events too, so highly recommend doing that. I think my personal favorite thing about Leland, and Mike could probably double on this, is that it's working. We are like constantly helping people reach these incredible goals of their life, getting into Stanford GSB, landing jobs at Lyft and Tesla and LinkedIn and these incredible programs. We like to say that when you get a coach on Leland, you have a team at your back, because we are just your biggest fan base, and we genuinely want you to succeed and are here to help you do just that. A couple ways that you can work with a coach if you've never worked with a career coach before. I know it can be kind of a scary, daunting, new process. We have a lot of different things. What's cool about coaching is that it's completely customized to where you would find the most benefit. So if it's applicant strategy, figuring out what companies you should apply to, who you are as a candidate, resume reviews is an incredibly powerful tool at your disposal. Networking support, case study prep, interviews. You can do a mock interview. It's the #1 most effective way to prepare for your interviews, is to do a mock interview. Or if you want someone to kind of hold your hand through the entire process and say, hey, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and I'm going to have your back during all of that, you can do that kind of comprehensive end-to-end support as well. If you would like a coach, you want to be paired, or you want to chat about what that may even look like, scan that QR code. You can book a free strategy call with a member of our team. I take some of them as well. You may get on the call with me. We'll drop the link in the chat as well. Okay, awesome. Let's get into the panel and discuss creating a standout candidacy for PM interviews. I know PM2 is an increasingly competitive path. So by the end of tonight, hopefully you're feeling a lot more prepared about how to create a really great application. I'm going to start off kind of high level, coaches, and I would love to hear from all of you on this. How did you land your role in product management? What did that route look like? Mike, start us off.
Yep. So I realized I wanted to go into product as a freshman in college. I applied to like every job I could find. I think I applied to about 300 jobs, and no one wanted to hire me. And so me and a group of friends decided we were going to do a project together just to get some experience on our resume. And we built an app that helps undocumented US citizens register a business. So like creating an LLC if you don't have a social security number. And then, we built it for a few months, donated it to a nonprofit, applied to another 300 jobs. People still didn't want to hire me. Eventually, I realized that I could look at companies that had just raised money. And if I knew they had money and I could maybe convince one of them to hire me. So I reached out to a bunch of startups, convinced one of them to take a shot on me, and worked there for a few months. And after I had that project and then like a real PM experience, from there, getting internships and getting interviews was just so much easier.
Thanks, Mike. Yiyang, what did your path into product management look like?
Yeah, so PM definitely not a thing when I was a freshman. So that really showed my age. I think probably I'm the oldest in the Zoom here. So I heard about product management when I was a junior and senior, and I tried a lot of really top programs. Like Facebook had this rotational PM, and Google had the APM. So I had an engineering background, but I did not major in computer science. So I applied all those and didn't work out. I actually took kind of a detour, started as a consultant. And then I had one project for 7 months, and then the client was Walmart. So I played the role for an e-commerce PM. For 7 months, I realized, oh, when the project ended, that's really sad. I want to do this PM stuff full time. So that's when I probably applied probably 200 to 300 jobs. And there's one company called Points. They just got acquired, based in Canada. They took a chance in me. So I would say there's a lot of luck involved because that was the only company that gave me an on-site round. And then I got an offer. The only offer I had, that's all I need. So
I
a lot of
love,
luck.
yeah, I love the diversity of perspectives we're getting to. Zane, what did your path look like?
It's a great question. I like to say that my path was honestly one big happy accident. I feel like in many respects, people, think about careers in product as being these highly calculated things, and it is very much not the case. So the origin story actually starts with an internship at a bulge bracket investment bank that I did not get a return offer to. Didn't like them, they didn't like me either. So it was a natural re-baseline for what I wanted to do with my life, and knew I liked solving business problems, and much like Mike, wanted to have some skin in the game. And so I was like, okay, what are jobs that I could do that have me solving business problems for the company that I work at, rather than kind of doing it on like a client by client basis. And LinkedIn was hiring for basically exactly that job. And so spent a year working in kind of one of these generalist business functions, ended up supporting one of our execs as their chief of staff for a little bit of time, more random projects, learning a bunch, and then found myself what I later realized was called product managing or managing products. And then told my exec, whatever job gets me to do more of what I'm doing now, please can I go do that? And he was like, oh yeah, you should go be a PM. And the rest is history.
Thanks, coaches. I think you're right, Zane, that there does feel like there's this track, right? I'm going to get like a big tech internship, then I'm going to be an APM at a top 25 company, and then I'm going to land the full-time offer after. But your guys' perspectives really show that there's a lot of different routes into product management, which I hope gives the people on this call a little bit of hope that if you're later in your career, if you're a student, whatever, there's a lot of routes into this competitive industry. Okay. You guys all have different perspectives on this, so I'm really excited to hear your answers. Product management, how can applicants differentiate themselves within this? I think product management is kind of a unique one because people do come from consulting backgrounds, from like engineering backgrounds, from all of these different backgrounds. So how can I, as an applicant, as a product management applicant, kind of help myself stand out? Yiyang, I think you've sat on the interviewer side a couple of times, so I'd love to hear your perspective when you're interviewing and talking to people of what you're looking for in like a really good PM.
Yeah. So I interview others kind of on the other side of the panel at TikTok, Pinterest, and here at Stitch Fits. I think one area that people kind of might not realize is that you might not need to have the product manager title per se, but you have to do the work, right? Nobody wants to pay you to explore what PM feels like, right? So I think it's very important that in your career stories in behavior interview to showcase that you have done and you have experienced what a PM should do. And then maybe there are some hard learning lessons. It's the same thing I tell my client. A lot of people are not confident because they don't hold the title to be a PM. But then there are programs that help you transition, right? For example, one of my clients, she was a nurse and she became part of the apprentice program, PM program within Pinterest. So it's possible to have that transition, but you have to really make the connection to say, hey, maybe I have done PM work, outside of my nurse job, or there are similarities with customer sympathy versus, patient sympathy. You really have to make that connection.
I love that last point. I want to highlight the last thing you just said, which was there's a lot of applicable skills that other careers have that product management kind of combines into one. And working with a coach can help this. Talking to friends and mentors can also help at highlighting those kind of skills, but we'll get into some of that later. Thank you, Yiyang. I love that perspective. Mike, I know you've worked with a ton of applicants for APM programs and all sorts of product management roles. How do you kind of help them highlight what you know is going to help them stand out in the interview process?
Yeah. First off, huge plus one to what Yiyang said. I once had a client who she had worked as an ACT tutor for a long time. And it was like really fun, like trying to figure out how do we frame being an ACT tutor as much like being a PM as possible. And it's like discovering what your clients are struggling with and then identifying a curriculum to solve those issues. Anyway, you can be really creative in how you describe task roles in a PM light. The other thing that I think is sometimes underrated is like deep passion for whatever product you want to work on. I once had a client who she was a dental hygienist and had wanted to switch into product and got an offer at a company that builds software for dental offices. And she talked about like she very deeply understands what these offices are struggling with and is really excited about being able to solve those problems, and really stood out against other applicants because of how well she understood the problem. And I think you can do the same thing across like any industry. Like if you want to break into product, why do you want to break into product? Are there certain products you're excited about? And like starting with those industries or companies.
Oh, I absolutely love that answer, Mike. I'm excited to unpack that a little bit more throughout tonight. Zane, anything you would add on how applicants can stand out in this process?
One super quick one. One of my favorite product quotes of all time is that no pixel was an accident. So one of the easiest ways to hone your product skills is just honestly to pay attention. When something is on your screen or something is on your phone and you realize, whoa, like the LinkedIn logo is a little bit more navy than it was blue today, or I see the Zoom client has like an AI assistant in the bottom. Like you have to remember that all of these changes started out as words on a PM's Google Doc, point blank. And I think one of the easiest ways to build your own PM skills is to realize like, I'm on Leland. I wonder why Mike built that, right? So it's an easy thing to just work into your daily routine.
Why did we build that, Mike? Awesome. Okay, so this is a really good transition, I think, of this is how you stand out. We've already gotten flavors of this. Yiyang just called this out of like, they want to know that you actually have the skills to do the job. I think for PM more than anything, this is super relevant. So if I'm in college or I'm a nurse and I'm looking to transition into product management, what are some of the skills that I need to learn? Zane, I would love to hear your answer to this first.
It's a great question, and I know there's folks of many different backgrounds here, so this answer is specifically catered to those with zero product background before and are hoping to break in new. The simple truth is that in many respects, a product manager can be thought of as the CEO of the product area that they own and are making important decisions about what to build, what not to build, who to hire, who to bring onto the team, etc. And if you think about it, a CEO's job is very much running the business, which is why I truthfully believe one of the core competencies of PMs is just really good business thinking, point blank. So one of the best places to start your sort of PM journey and competency, honestly, is just practicing business type problem solving, which is best done by learning how to do a simple case interview, which is particularly common amongst consulting companies. But being able to entertain a business problem, sit, reflect, think about how to solve it, and then programmatically work your way through the solution is really the foundation of like any good product strategy, any good sort of product launch or release. And the good news is it's probably the only type of interview where every rep and every mock does make you that much better. So your time will literally never be wasted learning how to solve business problems more effectively.
Yeah, I love that answer. I think what's cool about product management too is the interviews and the process leading up to like the skill building is so closely related to what you're actually going to do in the job. So by doing these cases that Zane is talking about, by getting those reps, you're actually preparing yourself to be a better product manager in the role as well. Mike, we just got a question in the chat that I would love for you to answer that's related to this. And it's, how do you even get that first interview? If I feel like I have the skills, but I'm not getting in the door, you kind of spoke to this in your introduction. How can I get that interview? How can I just get my foot in the door if I feel like once I'm there, I'll be a good PM?
Yeah, it's so funny. I get this question all the time from different clients I'm working with. I guess the disclaimer is I cannot give you a 10-word answer that will solve all of your problems. This is where one-on-one coaching is so important. And that's frankly the whole thesis of Leland is like some problems do require a one-on-one, like we're going to get in the weeds here and figure out what's the best solution. Usually with my clients, it's almost like a logic tree of like, is this the problem? Okay, it's not this. Like, is this the problem? So some of the most common mistakes I see, one is I'm just applying to companies that I see on LinkedIn. Like usually inefficient strategy. Like you need to be applying in the first 24 to 48 hours that a job opening is open. You want to have a referral, connections to the company, the product space. There's a lot that can be said about optimizing your resume in terms of like keywords, experiences. And so there's a lot to unpack there. I would highly recommend reaching out to a coach and going through that exercise of like, what is actually wrong with my application strategy right now? It is absolutely possible. Before the call, Zane and I were talking about a client which we had who she had like no experience at all, was going to go to medical school, and then ended up breaking into product, and she was able to get a lot of different offers. And it really is, you just got to optimize your application strategy.
I love that. I love that A/B testing approach to applying as well. Thank you. I want to move on to interviews because I think this is a tricky piece of product management because they look so different. There's product design, product execution, and case, and all of these different types of interviews. Yiyang, what is your advice on preparing and then acing the product management interview process?
Yeah. So just to be fully transparent, if I want to go into an interview tomorrow, I need to practice as well. It's not something you just, wing it, or no matter how many years of experiences you have. If I want to prepare for, let's say, Google interview next week, I probably want to hire a coach to give me a few pointers as well, because you do want to like sharpen your skills. Like I would say, to prepare for a PM interview, know kind of what you want, and then also understand it might take longer to get there. Like hiring a coach, again, it will be a good way to have to kind of, so you don't waste, let's say, 100 hours to have mock interviews and don't realize, okay, what should I improve? And then that's like one thing. And the other thing is really understand the culture of the company. Some companies, they might want to have your take-home assignment. So you need to understand, okay, what kind of homework should I do? Some other companies might just do like the interview. So really do your research there.
That's such good advice. Zane, I loved your your comment in the chat. If I interviewed for the job right now, I wouldn't get it. Everyone needs practice. That's so true. Zane, if you were interviewing for the job that you had right now, what like specific steps would you do to prepare to practice?
Truthfully, I won't say it's like an unpopular opinion, but I do believe that if you are firmly in the job search process, there really is no excuse to be unprepared. It's the one thing you can do to get the outcome that you want, right? So there's all of the good things around like interview preparation and being diligent about that. Yiyang listed some great examples and reasons why. But at the end of the day, there are many talented, qualified, and hungry candidates oftentimes gunning for the same job. And so it begs the question, like, what is the thing you can do to try and stand out in that process in particular? And one that I think is quite underappreciated is just being well-read about the industry that the company you are interviewing for is operating within. So I'll give you an example. My team at LinkedIn builds all of the artificial intelligence that powers our go-to-market teams. And so there are many direct competitors to the technology that I am building that we can take inspiration from. And so that means maybe spending 2 hours actually watching a demo day or an announcement from them to draw inspiration, get intel on where the industry is headed. And I think just having an opinion on where a company's sort of like industry or competitive set is headed is a really, really easy way to show nuance and, most importantly, attention to the company you're interviewing with.
Yeah, I want to highlight that you and Yiyang kind of spoke on both sides of the same thing, which is like researching beforehand, research the company, research the team, research the industry, like walk into that interview knowing what you'll be working on, what the environment, and talk to people. Like so many people don't talk to anyone at that company before interviewing. Reach out to people on LinkedIn with similar backgrounds, or they're an alumnus of your school, or something. Say, hey, can I chat about your experience at a company? I would love to learn more. Interviews are super important. Mike, I would love to hear your perspective on preparing and nailing for interviews as well.
Yeah, so much to unpack here. So generally the bar you should be focusing on, and maybe this is just a +1 to what Zane said, but you want to get to the point where with almost any product case that you receive, it's not that like I can do it, it's that I cannot mess it. Like I am so good, I am at the point where I feel confident that I will never not be able to do it. Some things that like I did in my interview prep is I would go through every app on my phone and I would do like improve, iMessenger, improve Facebook Messenger, improve YouTube, improve everything. And I'd go through it. And then I'd be like working with a coach, working with friends, like getting feedback from other people. Am I actually doing it? Then what Zane said, like anytime I got an interview at a specific company, you're doing a lot of research. You're meeting with PMs, you're meeting with coaches who worked at those companies. Like you're getting really deep into the industry. You're making sure that like you know what you're talking about.
I love that. Such good advice, coaches. Thank you all. We talked about this a little bit of getting your foot in the door and experience, but want to give any of you coaches the opportunity to extrapolate on this, particularly like experience. You know, maybe I'm not qualified for LinkedIn APM program, but Mike, you mentioned you built your own product. Like that was how you got experience. So that's a great way. Joining a startup is another one. Any other ways to get product or building experience? Zane, go for it.
Gotta exercise the Zoom etiquette and raise a hand. I also firmly believe it has literally never been easier, faster, or cheaper to build a technology product than November 19th, 2024 at 8:41 Eastern. One of the greatest interviews I ever had, interviewing somebody else. We got on the question of like, hey, have you ever built something before? And they literally just talked about a custom GPT that they built on their own using words on OpenAI about how they chose what workout to do that day based on what they had eaten, how their legs were feeling, and what they did the day prior. And it was the most insightful conversation, being able to say, oh, why'd you choose this? Why'd you choose that? Has it ever hallucinated? Why or why not? And it's those types of almost conversations about just like getting your hands dirty with building that are probably like the fundamental thing someone is looking for sure. So highly recommend, if you can think of nothing else, just always be building. It will always benefit you as you're recruiting for this job.
Yeah, Zane, I love that latter half of what you just said, and I would love for you to go deeper into this. Why was that such an impactful conversation? Was it like the thoughtfulness? Is it the speaking of real evidence that I built something? Like what particularly about that? How did they spin that experience into something that really has stood out to you enough to be an anecdote today?
You know, there's another kind of like product idiom or what have you that's quite popular at LinkedIn, but it's this phrase of like product managers might be wrong, but they should not be confused. And one of the reasons why this interview in particular stuck out is like I can't say that I agreed with this candidate's answer every time why they chose one problem or another or what was good or what was bad. But the simple fact that they believed what they were talking about and were able to take that belief and actually like instrument that change on the thing they were building is very much what a PM is doing day in, day out. And guess what? It's getting it wrong a lot of the time and figuring out their way through it, you know, week over week, quarter over quarter. But there really just isn't a good replacement or other way to simulate what it's like to take an idea from your mind and actually create it and bring it into reality, especially with technology.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great line. Yiyang, Mike, anything to add on this?
Yeah, I think finding one problem that you're passionate or what you think is worth solving, and then even do a mock or use these like AI tools. There's so many no-code options, no-code apps, and then just to start building, and then maybe ask friends and families or strangers in a coffee shop for feedback. Just like build something and iterate on it. And then another way, if you're like say you're looking for full-time jobs, you know, aim for PM related roles, but have a plan B. You want to have maybe PM adjacent job, let's say product operations, product marketing, or even customer support. In a startup, you could wear multiple hats, right? You could be a program manager, but you also write requirements like a product manager. You also talk to customers. I think that will help you. You know, a person's career is like 30 years long. Like maybe you don't get into PM in year 1, but year 2 and 3, eventually you'll get there.
I love that. Mike?
Just big plus ones. I think if someone is like wanting to become a software engineer, it's known that you do a bunch of projects and you create a website and you link that website when you're applying places. And I think product is like far more similar to that than it is to like management consulting or other types of similar industries. Like you should expect that you have tried to build things before if you're going to have your entire job being trying to build things.
That's the quote. That's the quote. We just got a question in the chat that's kind of related. Yiyang, I would love to ask you this as a transitioner from consulting. We talked a little bit at the beginning that there's a lot of skills and experience that are actually a lot more translatable to product management than people might think, and you should work with a coach to do this. But kind of high level, if I had an adjacent job, maybe as a project manager, a product marketing manager, a consultant, or even like business strategy and ops or something, how can I use that experience to land a PM role?
Yeah. So number one, I think it's the easiest way to transition to a PM is that you're already in the same company. you have demonstrated you could do a great job. You have like high caliber and doing a lot of managing other tasks. And then you might have worked with a product manager before and then understand, oh, how do you do work? And then you could, let's say, use your extra time to help out. At TikTok, there were a lot of product managers who were in product ops. So they have seen how PM operate at what level, what capacity. So I think that's one way to get in, like including, I see some comments saying if you're in a functional data scientist, right? Similarly, you might understand the patterns and talking to customers. And then the easiest way, talk to a PM in the existing company and then understand, hey, what are some gaps I need to fill? And then kind of try to minimize the gaps.
I love that tip. Yeah, that's super tactical. Okay, quick commercial break. Panelists, take a quick water break. Mike, I would love for you to speak to the product management bootcamp.
Yep. So this was really born out of like taking a step back. How do we create the most optimal process to help someone break into product? And what we have seen is obviously everyone is on a different journey because they've got different backgrounds and goals. But the reality is like the core skills required to break into product are very similar. And the interview process, almost at like any stage, is very similar. And so what we've done is we have built a curriculum of like, here is all of the skills you need to know, and here are all the types of interviews that you're going to be experiencing. And then we have hand selected some of the best coaches on Leland to do deep dives into each of those. So I don't know if there's another slide that goes through. Okay, here we go. Perfect. So here's just like some of the sessions that we'll be covering. One is like deep dive into getting the interviews. This is a lot of like networking strategy, resumes, like what types of companies to apply to, what industries to apply to, when you should be applying to them. Take-home assessments. This is actually the session that I do. I have a few dozen example take-home session or take-home assignments from all the major companies. We've categorized them into like different types of take-homes, and then we go through the different frameworks to solve them, and so on for basically every step of the interview process. You'll also get access to Leland Plus, which is our content library. So while we do not cover every example take-home in the session, you will get access to the library of all of the take-home sessions where you can go, or take-home assignments where you can go work on them. So we believe this is the value we are providing. That is not how much it costs. It costs $6.99. And I believe if you filled out the link at the start, we're giving away a free session to the bootcamp. And then yeah, we have a discount that runs for the next day or so. Or I guess, sorry, it expires tonight.
It expires tonight. You can enter to win if you didn't get a chance. We're giving away one free bootcamp spot tonight. And you will also get the discount, the $500 discount by entering that giveaway. So even if you don't get the giveaway, you will get that exclusive discount for tonight. As Mike said, like this is the this is the zero to hero, this is like get started, get your resume, learn what this interview process looks like. This is the best kind of encapsulated rocket ship start to your product management recruiting experience.
It's really fun. We did this boot camp. The last one we did was in August, and I'm now still working with 3 clients from the boot camp. And one just did her final round with Atlassian. 2 are in the middle of interviewing with LinkedIn. And so far, I mean, we're still waiting to hear back about offers, but so far the results have been incredible of like the interviews they've received, the offers they've been receiving. And so, yeah, very excited about it.
Zane, you might have some future colleagues attending here tonight. Okay, awesome. Common mistakes that candidates should avoid during this process. And I'll ask all of you this, coaches. You can focus on like setting up and resumes. You can talk about interviews. You can talk about networking. Take this in any direction that comes to mind. Zane, what are common mistakes that you've seen when you've worked with clients?
Do not have to even think about the answer to this one. Biggest pitfall, and it's the easiest one to avoid, is being overly scripted. I'm empathetic to the fact that preparation is key, and it's something you might think about in your kind of like downtime, especially if you're deep in the job search. But at the end of the day, these companies are hiring people. They're not really hiring resumes or little like AI doubles to do the job. And of all of the clients I've worked with ever before, if I had to summarize the engagement in just like a few lines, it's like, yes, we practiced a lot on how to prove that you can do the job. That's very much the easy thing. But more than anything, we spent a lot of time just helping the job seeker articulate what it is they want, why they want this, what their story is, what they want to do, even like beyond their profession. Like in many respects, your job should really be in service of your personal life at a fundamental level. And so there are so many instances where I find that just the most incredible and insightful candidates end up over compartmentalizing themselves into this archetype of what they think is going to work. And it's really, really key to let your sort of like individualism shine in the interviews. It's the only way you're going to be remembered after 40, 50, 60, 80, 100,000 candidates interview for the same job.
I love that. Also something that like a mentor or a coach or a friend can even really, really help with. Because I think sometimes we get into our own box that we lose all objectivity on our answers and who we are as a person. And you just kind of need a mirror sometimes. Mike, what are some common mistakes that you've seen?
Yeah, this may sound dumb, but it's something I've actually seen like way too much, which is like being humble enough to get help. I was talking to a friend the other day who they hate their job and they want to switch companies. And I was like, go work with a coach on Leland. Like, oh, I don't know, like it's gonna cost a lot of money. I'm like, first off, the company he's at does not pay well, and the companies he wants to work at pay so much more. Like investing a few $100s to get a job that pays you twice as much is like the best investment you will ever make in your entire life. And then second, like it obviously depends on the size of company, but these are really competitive roles. And if you believe that you can do it on your own with no help, like you are likely doing yourself a disservice, because very, very likely your competition is getting help and they are humble enough to do what it takes to get the role. And so take preparation seriously.
I love that. I think a lot of times you don't know your true potential when you're entering this process too, because again, like blinders are on sometimes. You have no idea the jobs that you could be qualified for if you just polish the outside a little bit. I love that, Mike. Yiyang, what are some of the common mistakes that you've seen?
Yeah, so I would say it's like a mindset. So people sometimes they get burnt out if after 300 plus job, they still don't have their dream job, or let's say their dream job is like a fund level company, they get rejected. And then they feel, oh, like, what did I do wrong? Did I start or whatever? So I would say it's like a shift of mindset, right? Right now, it's a really competitive market. I've heard some of my friends when they have a job opening that overnight there's like 1,000 resumes, right? So how do you stand out? Sometimes it's a bit of luck, right? So what we can do is make sure we do our best. And if we don't get it, you have a plan B. I would say that's like kind of a mindset. Like don't blame yourself too hard if you don't have the job.
I love that. It also is kind of related to what people are talking about in the chat of like, oh, if I don't get my dream product
Yeah.
role, still like well, if you want to be a product manager, then go work on products. And even if it's not your dream product, you'll learn how to build a product. You'll like be surrounded by other PMs and be able to soak up knowledge from them. So even if you don't get your dream product role, go get a product job. Zane?
Sorry, that comment totally struck a chord. I can't tell you how many times people end up writing off opportunities because the product role that they might have a chance at getting or is panning out is not in the industry or domain that interests them. That is such a fundamentally flawed way to think about it, because think of it this way: if you've never been a PM before and you end up getting a PM job in an industry that speaks to your heart and kind of like lights your fire, you may not have the skills to actually do that job justice. So I think there is so much merit to learning the product, trade, and craft and skill set in a low stakes environment where it might not, light your fire to work in that industry day in, day out, but it gives you the reps you need to understand how to be your best PM so you can go do your life's work in time.
I love that. Well said. Okay, I'm gonna rephrase this question a little bit. I would love to hear from you coaches. What's like the best, how do you think that you have been the most helpful to applicants? Like to what extent, to where have you really been able to help applicants stand out? What is your most valuable thing that you can bring someone who's trying to get into product management? Zane, I'll go to you first.
Thanks, Amelia. Most I always like to do kind of like either a post-mortem or a retro with my clients once our coaching has come to an end, just to understand kind of what went well and what didn't. Common theme that I hear from the folks I've had the privilege of working with and advising is I'm very much a realist when it comes to assessing what's working, what isn't, and what needs to be improved. And at the end of the day, a lot of kind of like my focus is on helping the clients that I get to work with prioritize their own time in what is likely a very busy life. And so make no mistake, should we get the chance to work together, you work with any others, that is something a coach can very much help you uncover is literally what should I be working on when, first, and next.
I love that. Mike?
Yeah, I guess I'm not speaking specifically myself, but talking about all coaches in general. What I've seen to be the most helpful with my clients is knowing where to direct their energy. And with that, I mean at least two things. So the first is there are so many bad ideas out there or bad advice that people get, and they are following this bad advice and just wasting time and energy. So helping them realize like what you're doing, it sucks, stop doing that. And then second, helping them know on a very personal level, what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses as an applicant, and where do they need to be investing their energy. Usually at the very start of working with a client, we'll go through all the different types of interviews, and I can see like, okay, you're great at behavioral and you're bad at cases and you're okay at, analytics questions. And then after you do that diagnosis, like, okay, we're going to spend way less time focusing on behavioral, but we need to be doing like a ton of mock cases. And so helping someone know like, how do they need to level up as an applicant?
I love that. That's hard to know yourself too. You kind of need someone from the outside. Yiyang, how have you best worked with clients?
Yeah, so usually I would say we want to have a realistic expectation, whether it's timeline, whether it's role, or it's like tier of companies. I like to use the analogy a lot, even in my day-to-day job. So think about if your family asks, like, what's for dinner, right? So you want to have like a concept. Do you want to have like beef? Do you want to have shrimp, or do you want to have more carbs tonight, right? So if somebody comes to me, say, I want a job, and then I would just like how you get kind of solve a business problem. Like you want to ask your customer, in this case, the client, hey, what do you want? And then what specific domains? What's your specialty? Know your strength, know your weakness, just like Mike said. And then we'll have like a customized plan. And then to say, hey, realistically, let's apply for X amount of jobs, and then let's reach out to certain companies that you might have referrals, get some coffee chats, and how do we work around that? And then how can we have a resume that can stand out to different vertical, different industries or companies? Again, over 1,000 applicants overnight, how can you stand out? So I think just have a realistic expectation and then understand how we can have a customized plan for you. And then again, do our best and then also have a little bit of luck. So that's it.
Thanks, coaches. I love all of those answers. One thing that I'll see from kind of being on the other side is just having like a cheerleader. Sometimes job recruiting is hard. It can be like draining and sad and disappointing, and just having someone to like keep you grounded and energized and optimistic, it can be so incredibly powerful and helpful. I just dropped this in the chat, but we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A. So keep dropping those questions. I saw the one about networking. We can do that. And if you see a question that you like, give it a thumbs up or a plus or something so to help us prioritize. But if you have some questions, we'll have some time for Q&A, so drop them in the chat. Coaches, I want to give you kind of a last stand. If there's one thing that the attendees tonight should walk away from, what's like the core piece of advice that they should walk away from this with in regards to pursuing a career in product management? Zane, what is yours?
It sounds a little bit cliche, but you really don't need to have the whole plan figured out. More often than not, your gut is almost always right. So do yourself a favor, take the first step, read the article that you come by on like the latest product thinking from a given company, join Leland in some fashion, even just kind of like read some of the classic interviewing product-esque type of books. But you'd be surprised just how much a little bit of momentum can carry you and kind of fill your tank, especially if you're just getting started. So there really is not a need to overthink the process. Taking the first step will get you much farther than you think it will.
I love that, Zane. Mike, what's your final piece of advice?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to word this the right way. So I think that product management is not for everyone. And what I mean by that is when I was at Atlassian, I looked at my calendar and the calendar of the other PMs in my org, and we averaged 6 hours of meetings a day. And for some people, that is absolutely not the right job. If product is right for you, I feel personally, I don't think I would have been happy in any other job unless it was product management. My mind just like craves the problems that I get to think through as a product manager. And I would feel dissatisfied until I was in a role in which I get to do what I get to do. If that is you, and there are a lot of people that way, if that is you, then commit and like do what it takes to get the job that you want to have that will give you these opportunities, because it is so fun and so rewarding. And if that is not you, don't worry about it. Like there are tons of other great careers, but if it is you, you just do what it takes.
I love that, Mike. Super well said. Yiyang, what's your final piece of advice?
Yeah, I think similar to what they mentioned, again, career is not a sprint, right? It's a marathon. So understand what's your long-term career goal. Do what it takes for the next X amount of years. And if you don't get your job in your first try, it doesn't matter. I know people who got into Google after like 5 or 6 tries. And then another advice I would have is to keep up with the industry you're interested in, whether it's AI, whether it's e-commerce or security or cloud. Understand like what's the latest news and really try to be, I mean, we can't all be expert overnight, but try to understand like what's the latest trend, and then just be fascinated to solve a problem.
Thank you, coaches. Such good tips to bring us out. Okay, we've got some time for Q&A, which is really fun. I will leave these questions open, coaches. If you have an answer, feel free to come off mute and answer them. I love this first one. How do you reach out to people at companies that you want to work at? If I'm going to rephrase it a little bit, if it's tricky to, if they're not responding, or if you don't know anyone in common, or if they're not in your networks or something, what is the best way to do kind of outreach, cold outreach for networking? Any of you have experience with this?
So I was typing an answer to a different question and totally lost track of the question that was asked. Amelia, can you cue me into like either who asked it or something so I can see the question again?
Yeah, I can. It's also very related to LinkedIn, so I would hope that you have an insight here. It's how can I reach if I am not getting answers from the people that I've reached out to. I don't have anything, and they're not my like second, people in common. And I'm not hearing back from anyone. How can I do that like cold outreach more effectively is the heart of the question.
Yes. Okay. Cardinal sin of networking is asking someone to, quote, pick their brain or learn from their experience or talk about their long-term career objectives. The reason I think these are problems are because in many ways, think about like networking, like how you would build a product, right? At the end of the day, like who is your user? If you're networking with someone, I am your user. And you want to make it very, very easy for the user to engage. So the first thing I recommend you think through with regard to networking is like, you want to make it easy for the person to network with you as well. The easiest way to do that is to be hyper specific about what it is you want from them, what insight you want to learn. And there are many, many, many ways to decide like what that is for you. Maybe it's, I've been working on my pitch for why I'd like to be a PM. It seems you've been a PM for some time now. I would love it if you could just pressure test my answer. Or I see you had this really unique experience that honestly resonates with something that I'd love to accomplish in the medium term. Do you mind if I just ask you a few questions about how you navigated this decision? Like something of that nature where it's like hyper curated and targeted to like who that person is. That's number one. The other one is if you are identifying these people on social platforms like my employer, which is LinkedIn or X or Reddit, you'd be shocked at how far an insightful comment will get you. namely just replying to a thread that piques your interest, or even like copying the link and sending it to them and be like, hey, loved your take here. Don't really disagree with, don't really agree with your other one, but would love to debate it for 10, 15 minutes if you're open to that. Those types of outreach are absolutely the type of thing that I immediately call that person right away, or I say, what's your cell? And I go and do a walk around the block for 10 minutes and talk to that person. Like, it does not need to be this overly romanticized Shakespearean 30-minute encounter with a PM. That is definitely not what you should aim for.
Oh, I love that. And I saw us all shaking our heads, can I pick your brain for 15 minutes? You just kind of want to hit your head against the wall when you get that 50 times a day.
I have a hot take actually,
Go for it.
because when I was in college, I had the same, not like confusion, but it's like, oh, these people, they don't respond to my LinkedIn. And 10 plus years later, I understand why. Because when you start to have a family, start to have kids, life gets chaotic. If you have, let's imaginary number, if you have 50 plus LinkedIn requests, then you have like burning issues at work, and you have a sick kid at home, as PMs deprioritize things every day, you probably will deprioritize the random LinkedIn request. So it's kind of like similar to like a job, right? If you realize, okay, I don't see these people, I maybe admire the company they work at, like I really love those companies, they don't respond to me. Maybe expand your scope, right? Like have a bigger scope, start to reach out to the companies that you have some common connections and get half a foot in the door. So yeah, because I have been on the both sides, and I totally realize once you have kids, life really changes. So
Yeah, thanks, coaches, for that perspective. That's great. We got a question about work-life balance. I would like to make it a little bit more broad and just ask coaches, you've all worked at different types of companies, big names too, as well as startups and other things. I would love you to speak to like how the culture and the day-to-day and the work hours and everything has changed at those different types of companies, whether it's big tech or different types of things. Mike, maybe I'll start with you. Like, what's the experience of a product manager at a startup versus Atlassian versus like building your own how does that differ, both from culture, work-life balance, all the things?
Yeah. So I guess for context, when I was at Atlassian, what I was in charge of is like 2 screens in the sign up flow. And all I worked on during my time there was, should we ask for people's first name before or after they verify their email? And that was like all I did. But I had to be sure that like whatever we decided to do as a company was 100% the best decision. So like the thoroughness, the research, the way I communicated that was very, very sure. And so a lot of my job was like coordinating with other people, like running tests, looking at the data. Frankly, it was like a lot more chill. Like I went home earlier, I got to work later, I had more time and flexibility during the day. I now work at Leland, and I am the only PM, and like every moment is constant chaos from like the second I start working till the moment I stop working. And there's a lot of half-baked ideas and decisions. I love that because like it's so intellectually stimulating because I'm constantly working on like a really fun problem. But it is also like, I feel like I have 0 free minutes in a given day, and I'm working a lot of hours.
Thanks. That's super helpful, I think, to see the difference. Like, yes, you're a product manager in both roles, but that can mean very different things. Even though high level, there are a lot of overlaps. Yiyang, Zane, anything to add about how that product manager role has changed or looked differently depending on the type of company?
yeah, I think it's very similar to what Mike said. I've been in a few companies, and every culture is different, right? The teams are different. There are companies I literally had 8 hours meeting, and then I would have lunch, and then have meeting at the same time. And then at night is when you write PRDs and do work. And there are also other companies that I feel like, okay, half of my days are in meeting, another half I could read blog posts, do some AI side project, and then really understand customers. It does depend on the team, even within the same company.
Thanks. That's great. Okay, we've got a couple questions. I think there's a decent amount of people here who are a little bit further into their career. Maybe they're like 3 to 5 years out of college and are trying to transition into product management. This is a little tougher because it's not just any role, right? I like have a salary expectation now, and maybe I do have a family or a kid, but I still want to get into product management. Any tips on transitioning into PM maybe a little bit later in your career?
What one immediate thought on this one is I actually think individuals that had professional experiences prior to becoming a PM actually make the best PMs. I do believe that at a fundamental level. Reason being is because in many respects, the greatest PMs are always measured on the opinionated or otherwise controversial stance they took on an issue that either panned out and was great, or it didn't, and they learned something that ended up informing a larger strategy. And there's no better way to form your opinion on how to think about things than having viewed such problems from a different job function, industry, professional experience, etc. So I think there is a long-term advantage to having done something prior. Now, in terms of how to do it, more often than not, and this is actually the client kind of archetype that I've spent the majority of the last year with, is getting very clear on what is your prioritized list of things that matter to you. And then also identifying what is the point at which I will draw a line and say that if something meets these criteria, I am willing to sacrifice what's sitting below it. Simply doing that exercise is actually quite illuminating because it will help you prioritize your own time in terms of what things to prep, who to network with, what companies are hiring, what to read about. It just limits the universe of things you need to get done. And again, good news is this is like very much in your control. So that would be step number one. And then the other one is if you have the benefit of working in a company that has the product management function, every PM loves that inevitable Slack or Teams message that says, hey, give me the parts of your job that you like the least. And I will happily give you production testing. And that is the type of thing that will give you the experiences you need to sort of start to take your first steps into the trade. And if you're not at a company that has the product management function, simply taking the step to get into that type of company or that type of industry is oftentimes the first step. Ooh, Millie, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. I said that was super helpful and very tactical. Thank you. It was also a very product manager way to approach product management recruiting, which I love. Okay, thank you so much. We're gonna announce our giveaway winner. Let me check who the winner was. Leah Marlundine. Congratulations. We're so excited to have you in our product management bootcamp. This is the second time we're running this. Excited to bring our best coaches back and so excited to have you in that bootcamp. We will email you all the details, but Leah Marlundine, you are our winner tonight. Okay, if you guys could join me in giving a big thank you to our coaches. They are here of their own volition. They are spending their Tuesday nights helping you guys land these product management jobs. Coaches, thank you so much for your time and for your insight and your thoughtfulness. We really appreciate having you here tonight. Okay, awesome. There's also, we just dropped their profiles. You can work, what's cool about Leland is you can work one-on-one with any of the panelists on here on your interview prep. Thanks for the hype, Mike. I love that. We just dropped their profiles in the chat. You can go and you can book a free 15-minute intro call to kind of check out the vibe, see if they could be of help to you and your career path. So highly recommend doing that. Quick next step. So get coaching. You've talked about it. We've talked about it a lot tonight. Get an expert in your corner. Get personalized feedback on what you need to do. And if you want to get started but aren't sure how, set up that strategy call. We'll send the link in the chat. We'll match you to a coach. We'll like kind of talk next steps with you, or we're here to be your sounding board and your resources. Thank you so much for being here. Coaches, thank you again. We hope you guys feel a lot better about recruiting for product management roles. If there's anything that I can do, again, please reach out. We're here to be your cheerleaders and your resources. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. Thank you.
Hi, could we get the link to the giveaway or the picture for like the sign-in?